Merry meet everyone. Welcome back to Enlightened Souls. Damic here. Today I am going to be showing you guys how to make protection stones out of river rocks, or you can use crystals if you do have spare crystals around that do correlate with each element. But in this purpose we're going to make the intention for them to work with each element. So I have a bluer one for water. It's got some white in there and brown for the sand and the foam of the ocean. We have a white one to represent air. I chose black for spirit. A brown one with a little bit of dirt on it for earth. And this orange, yellow, and kind of a like tan yellow color for fire. So you'll need 5 stones, each that correlates with the different elements. So you're going to want to decide what color goes with what, or which stone calls to you. You can use any type of stone, any color. These are your stones. And if you do choose crystals, they'll work just the same. But you will also need something that represents each element. So I have some incense going in the corner back there for air. I have a little bowl here of water. I have a candle for fire. And then earth, I have 3 different crystals. I have amethyst, quartz, and rose quartz for the earth element. And then spirit, I always call on to my ancestors and my divine sources for spirit. But for the first one, I think I will start with the fire one. So what you're going to do is you're also going to need either black, white, gold, or silver paint, a paintbrush, or paint marker, or a Sharpie marker works as well. But I usually try to use black, white, gold, or silver because those are the most neutral colors you can use. So for the element fire, what I'm going to do here is first you're going to cleanse the stone however you choose so. So I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of sage to go ahead and cleanse it because I did get these from outside. So I'm going to go ahead and light this candle too because I'll need it later. So you're going to go ahead and cleanse and purify the stone however you see fit, however you do it in your spell work or your ritual workings. Alright. Once you get it cleansed, for the fire element, what I do is I take the stone and I'm going to run it through the flame 9 times. So it'll have this little burn char effect from the fire, and I'm going to keep that on there to hold in that emphasis on the fire element. So that's the first step for the fire. For the earth one for me is already done. I found a stone that was kind of buried in the earth a little bit. Sorry, my cat's knocked my camera over. But I found one that was kind of buried in the earth a little bit. So I went ahead and kept the dirt on there. That way it'll represent the element of earth. And being a stone itself, it already represents it. But what you're going to want to do if it doesn't have dirt on it, you're going to want to gather some soil from outside somewhere and just rub it in there for a good while. Maybe even set it in there for like 10-15 minutes. Let it really absorb the energy, the essence of earth. So that one's already taken care of for me. The spirit one is going to be one that you're going to want to put intention into and call on your divine sources to make it happen. So for this one, I set this one aside for last because that one usually takes the longest. For air, what you're going to do is you're going to take it and run it through either a smudge stick smoke, so like a sage stick smoke or paliconto sage mix or any sort of bundle that you use. And you're going to want to run it through the incense smoke or some kind of smoke to represent the element of air. So I'm going to go ahead and do that over here with my incense. I kind of have a little divot here which is neat, so I can just set it in there. I'll try and show you guys real quick. It's one of those fountain cone incense things. So I just set it in there, let it really come in contact with the smoke. And if you get it close enough to the smoke, it should even leave a little residue line on the stone. So this is going to help further put the intention of air. So that one's done. And for the element of water, you're going to take the stone and you're going to bathe it in that water you have. Mine is a saltwater mix because I really want to put emphasis on the ocean part of water for my elemental stone. You can just do a generic water one, but I really call on to the power of the oceans, the rivers, and like the great water sources, like the big bodies of water whenever I'm doing spell work. And it's up to you if you want to just wait and let it dry, but I do have a paper towel here that I'm going to kind of dab it with, not fully get it. I'm going to have some spots on here that are still wet and let it dry on there naturally. I just don't want it to be soaking wet on top of my wooden shelf here. So now that you have done an elemental piece for all of them besides spirit, you want to do your spirit. You're going to put your intention into it. You're going to try and connect it to your divine sources, whoever your ancestors are, the spirits that you work with, your gods, your goddesses, anything like that. You're going to connect it to those people. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so once you got it connected to where you feel the energy flowing within the stone, now is where you're going to want to paint or draw, or for some people you can even scratch these in if you have a tool to where you can engrave into stone. That would be even better. I would highly suggest that, and then go back over and carve into it. So I'm going to show you guys my family's elemental symbols that they have created and used for centuries to use on these. And it's up to you, but I like to actually use a firm paintbrush, so I get it covered in paint, let it dry so it hardens up, so when it's nice and stiff, it's the easiest to inscribe or write or draw symbols that way, I find. So I'm going to show you guys fire first. I'm going to go ahead and do it on a stone, and then I'll get close up on it so you guys can see what it looks like and copy it down. And you're going to want to take your time on it and try and... It's not going to be perfect because it is a stone. It's hard to paint on stone sometimes. But you're going to want to try and just get it as close to the symbols as possible, because I'm showing you guys, again, my family's ancestral symbols that we've used for generations. And we date back way before Salem. My grandma descends from Salem. Her grandmother and her great-grandmother were descendants of Salem. But we've been using this in our Asian shamanism for centuries. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys up close what the fire symbol looks like. See if I can get it to focus a little bit better here. Maybe if I bring this candle, get some more light, maybe that's the issue. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to get it to focus a little bit better for you guys. Can you see it though? So it is one long line that has a tail at the end, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swiggles on the outside. And the wildness of the lines represents the wildness of fire, and kind of the shape that it has represents a flame rising. So if you need to, go ahead and pause the video to draw that. But that was the fire protection stone, and they're not done yet. We're doing the symbols on them after we have done the, again with these cats, I'm so sorry. So we've done the touch of the element by interacting with the element with each stone, so like the water, air, earth, fire, and spirit. But we are going to draw the symbols on, and then I will show you guys the way you set them up for protection. You're going to set them up pretty much in a pentacle wherever you decide to hide them or place them. And if they're not in the pentacle form, you're going to want to put them in a little baggie or something. But I'll show you guys at the end how I set them up, and I enchant and bless over them for their properties of protection. So next I have the earth one. I'll show you guys the earth symbol that my family uses. So here is the earth symbol. It always has kind of reminded me like some robot you would see in Star Wars, but apparently the backstory to this symbol is from my grandmother's tribe village that she lived in Thailand when she was younger and growing up. There was a spirit or a earth god that they would worship that would come by the river that was big masses of stone. And he didn't have legs, he kind of just like shifted with the earth, but he pushed himself along, excuse me, kind of like a gorilla would with his giant arms. And he's got two massive plates at the bottom of solid stone. But he's the one who apparently helped create the village she lived in Thailand. They're very spiritual people in her village. They have many different gods for different things. And I can't remember the name of it to save my life, but it's pretty much a representation of the god that came and structured pretty much society and the environment in her village out of earth and stone. So you guys can go ahead and pause that if you need to. Pretty basic though. It's a oval shape with a flat base at the bottom, two extended arms with two flat pieces on the bottom. But that is the earth symbol. Again, it's a representation of that earth god from her village. The spirit one, the reason I chose for the spirit one to be black and for me to have black paint is because you can't see spirit most of the time. So I don't want you to be able to see the symbol on the stone itself to represent spirit even more, because most of the time you do not see spirit in your everyday physical form in life. It's more of dreams, and if you do see them, it's not a clear image. Again, that's most of the time. Some people have seen some stuff out there, but I wanted it to be a black stone and black paint so you don't see the symbol, just like you don't see spirit when you're working with them, but you still know they're there. So for the symbol, I'm going to go ahead and draw it on my hand for you after I draw it on the stone. You guys might hear my son playing in the background, but so you're not going to be able to see it very well in the stone, especially when it dries, but I will draw it on my hand for you, that way you guys can see it. It's pretty much like a stick man. It's like a stick figure, except you have to do the legs a certain way. You just have to bend the legs in like a bow shape, and the arms in a bow shape as well. So it reminds me of either a little stick person with a head on either side, or reminds me of like an ant or a spider. But that is it. And the parts here that are solid black, you just shade the rest of the stone that is available right there, so only white or open spaces are in between each of the lines. So this is the symbol for spirit. It'll be standing right up and down too, like that. I'm just showing you for camera purposes. So when you use it, always put it like this, because it's representing as above, so below. Same as these lines, as above, so below. It's really emphasizing both sides of the magical field, because you do have ancestors on both sides. Just because they're a darker form of an ancestor does not mean they're deemed evil. It just means they practice more of like a darker type of magic, if that makes sense. Again, it's up to the practitioner. It's not up to the magic itself. Magic is magic. The practitioner is what deems it good, evil, mixed, you know. But that is the symbol for spirit. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this off my hand before it dries. Use the symbol a lot, but don't need it on me right now. Alright. So we got earth, fire, spirit. We're going to go ahead and do air. So you're going to want to try and keep that burn from the incense if you have it on there, so don't wipe it off. You're going to want to let that dry. So I'm going to go ahead and do it in a different spot. And again, if I'm going faster than you can paint or draw, pause the video. Go ahead and take your time with it. You don't want to rush or anything. The more time you put into it, the more effective and the better they work. Alright. This one I might have to draw on my hand too, because the stone is shaped weird. So I'll show you guys what it looks like on there. But I'll go ahead and draw this one on my hand as well, because the stone is shaped oddly, so I want you to be able to actually see it and copy it down. That's a little too much. There we go. So you're going to make a square pretty much in the shape of waves or air waves. The air currents is what we pretty much copied them to, with 2 dots in the center and 2 dots in each corner, completing the square. So you can see that you're going to make a square out of wave lines, and then you're going to put 2 dots in the center and 2 dots in each corner, representing that air is everywhere and air can take any shape and any form. So that's why each squiggle is different and most of the dots are going to be different. But this is what we use for air. Don't mind this smudge, that's from the last one. So you just want the 2 dots in each corner, the wave lines making a square, and 2 dots in the center. Ignore those 2 smudges, that's from the last painting that I had on me. But yeah, that's the air. Go ahead and show you guys water now. Waters is actually one of the easier ones, I think. This one I might have to show you guys on my hand too, because they're different on the, like when you draw them on the stones curve, so you have to follow the curve. But I'll show you guys what it's actually supposed to look like real quick on my hand. This one is, like I said, a very easy symbol to remember and draw. So here's water. When you use it again, you're going to want to use it like straight up and down like that. I'm just trying to show you guys in the camera angle. But in a sense, it's a triangle. That always reminds me of the Wi-Fi symbol, I swear. But it's a triangle that tapers down to a dot with two squiggles on each side. The reason being, when you flip it the actual direction, the big one should be on the bottom. That represents it being on Earth and the stage of where it gets sucked up into the sun and can turn into a cloud, which is the dot, and then the squiggles, which is rain. So it's like the Earth has it as on Earth and ice form. The middle is like it being evaporated. The top is where it turns into a gas, and then the dot is the cloud. The squiggles are the rain. So it's showing all of the forms that the element water takes all in one. But this is a symbol that my family has used. So now I am going to show you guys how I set it up. And once again, this is all up to you. I'm just showing you guys how I personally do it. You can use these as you wish now. But the way that I use them, set them up to activate them, is going to be in the form of a pentacle. So the star, as known by most people in society. Because when you place them in the pentacle, and again, I don't worry about the order of the pentacle when I'm doing this, as long as I have the representation of each element. I'm not one that calls to the watchtowers of the east and calls to the watchtowers of the north and so on and so forth. I believe as long as you have representations of each one, then you are all right. So I'll get it set up here so I can show you guys. Alright, so let's see here. Go ahead and show you what they look like. So you're going to want to put it in the formation of the pentacle with all of the symbols pointing towards the center, like so. With spirit being the point. That's the only main thing that I worry about, is spirit being the point. But now that it's in there, this is when you're going to go ahead and do your circle. So the way that you cast a circle is how you're going to set and activate these stones when you want to use them for protection, because you're calling onto the elements that you work with for protection. So you're going to want to go ahead and cast your circle. So what I usually would say is I call onto the elements of air, water, earth, and fire. And that's usually how I set it up, because that's how I personally call onto it. Call to elements of air, water, earth, and fire, and ask thee to be here during this time of my magical workings, or during my daily life, to bring forth the powers of protection, to cast a circle of protection around me, my loved ones, and those I choose fit. And for me, I would say something along the lines of my family, my son, my wife, and myself. And then I would go to spirit. I call on to the power of spirit, those among, as above and so below, ancestors, loved ones, those of pure good heart, those who follow the path of light, those that have been lost pets, lost familiars, banishing all evil and negative entities, malicious thoughts, ideas, hexes, curses, and ties. And then I personally work with the goddess Hecate, but I'm not going to do that right now because it's more of a personal connection. I don't do a lot of my workings with Hecate on camera. I will mention my path with her. I will talk about my path with her a little bit, but I don't like to do workings with her on camera. So that part I'm going to go ahead and say to myself over this circle. And somebody's actually asked me before what I'm doing over anything that I'm working on. I'm actually drawing a pentacle. over it with my energy before I force my energy into it. So I'm building the energy already and working my intention into it, but I cast a pentacle right above it to further seal it in. That's just my preference. So after you have called onto the circle, you're going to want to consecrate it and finish it. So I would say something along the lines of, I thank thee all for being here during this time of magical workings. I bless and consecrate this circle, raising its power and vibrations around me, my family, and then you list off, whoever you want to be a part of your circle. And then at the end of it, I would say, by the powers of 3, so mote it be. And it would be casted. And then your protection barrier would be set up as long as you have these stones with you in the formation of a pentacle. And again, if you're not going to use them in the formation of a pentacle, you're going to want to put them in a bag where they can all be together so that their energies still, connect and really do their protection work for you. But again, that is the protection stones. If you need to, go back and pause the video so you can see all of the symbols correctly. See what I mean about the spirit one? You'll see it, but you won't see it as a clear image. But thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. I hope it helps you all. And if you haven't yet, definitely hit the subscribe and like button and hit the bell if you want to get notified whenever I drop a new video. But once again, these stones are going to be used for daily witching events. So if you're at the office, you can set these up. You can set these up in a college dorm room. You can even have them, like I said, in a baggie if you're going out and you want to take them with you. But they're good for travel altars as well. That way you have every representation of each element because you have that symbol on there and that touch of the element. The way I would cleanse it is use the element that it is represented by. So for the one for spirit, I would do like a meditation with it and cleanse it, or place it in moonlight and cleanse that one. But for the rest of them, cleanse them with the element they were with. The water one, I wouldn't do a dunk, I would do a mist. So it's like either mist it down or take like one single drop and put it on there. You don't want your symbol to get messed up. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and once again, I hope they help you. Until next time, blessings.